Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Singapore. This track encircles Marina Bay, I should say. That's a dumb word to mispronounce. I did it though. Here in Singapore, pretty difficult little road track, have to say. This is definitely some of our drivers' least favorite F2 circuit, clocking in just a little over 5 kilometers. All the ins and outs. We'll have a total of 23 turns here. Should be quite a good time. Oh, look, it seems that we have one Raven Fleming in the chat today. I'm sure she'll be excited to see how her boy Big Baguette does in this F2 race. Although, unfortunately for Raven Fleming, I'll have to report we do not have a Big Baguette here today, so you'll have to pick a different driver to follow as we get underway here in qualifying. Let's see, who are we following in qualifying today? Hop on board with fan favorite Let's Get Fiscal, see how he does. As we see him coming into Sector 2, into Turn 7. You'll see coming into Turn 7, drivers will have hit their max speed on the track and will have to brake all the way down to around 60 to 90 miles an hour to be able to successfully complete that Turn 7. Into Turn 9 now. Bit of a straight here before Turn 10. They call this St. Andrews Road on the circuit. A bit of a left there, Turn 10. Turn 11, just a little bobble into a right. Turn 12, accelerating through, a bit of a left turn as you see Fiscal bump the tires just a little bit there. Turn 13 is going to be a long looping 180-degree turn to the left. This takes us into the Esplanade Drive. Turn 14 is going to be a little over a 90-degree right. Got to hit the brakes just a touch there. Turn 15, you barely feel a little bump to the left right here. Turn 16, another pump of the brake into a right turn, followed by a 90-degree turn 17, and then another 90-degree left turn 18. 19 is 90 degrees to the right, as is turn 20, which we have right here. Turn 21 is going to be about 90 degrees to the left. And then our final two turns, turn 22, right past pit lane, and turn 23 that takes us to our home straight. Should be a lot of fun here in Singapore. We see 3 DRS zones here in Singapore as Vapor Cobalt secures pole position. 15 drivers here today in Singapore, so certainly not a full grid, but you know, it's the best to be expected as we are coming up on the end of the season. And Let's Get Fiscal leads the way currently with 190 points in F2 for Bette Jalle. In second, we have Big Baguette, not present for today's race, with 169 points. And in third is Trulson with 115 points. Quite the spread in F2, if I do say so myself. But it should be a fun race indeed. Raven Fleming asking, Mr. Moderator, who do you think I should root for? Well, that's a tough one as we take a look at these qualifying times. Pretty close here, especially between third and fourth. Just a couple hundredths of a second difference. Let's Get Fiscal also just a couple hundredths of a second back of Nicholas Volkman. So 3 through 5 very, very close here as we get this feature race underway. Well, unfortunately, Miss Raven Fleming, I have to tell you, this particular moderator slash announcer picks no favorites. I will say we have a couple new racers that I've not yet seen run F2. That is Naz Reinstecken, or Naz, and Tij Men, Tij Men. I've not seen him run a race either. So a couple newcomers here in the grid. Crunchy Trees is also running his third race. He's had a couple really nice races over the last couple of weeks in F2. Unfortunately, joining maybe just a little too late to really make a push points-wise, as he currently has 13 points in F2, so just about 177 points back of Let's Get Fiscal currently. We are expecting some rain, just a little sprinkle of rain maybe later on in this feature race. We'll have to keep an eye on the weather radar and see if that rain moves in. It should stay, for the most part, pretty light, but definitely we'll have to keep an eye on that. Looks like Raven has picked her favorite today, and that will be Let's Get Fiscal. Currently in first place on the table, so definitely a safe pick. He does tend to turn in really solid results, both in F2 and F1, but F2 is definitely seems to be his bread and butter, as he's turned in top 3 performance after top 3 performance. Take a look here at tires. Vapor Cobalt's going to be starting on the softs, Lesty Twig on super softs, KJ on softs, Nicholas Volkman also softs, Fiscal's on softs, Racers 6 through 11 all on super softs. That's Crunchy Trees, Gorley, Word Cloud, Zenica, and TGI Men, Nays, Ryan Stecken, all on those super softs. In 12th, starting in 12th, I should say, we have Josh Smithness on softs, back to super softs with Fuchensky and Matty Sierra, and Trulson starting at the back of the pack today on softs. Interesting to see what kind of plans these fellas have moving forward. Hopefully we don't see Gorley make the same mistake he made last week, where he was just running away with the race, but, whoops, forgot to pit stop, and that disqualified him, and unfortunately he lost out on a solid placement in that race last week. You'll kind of notice the first 3 turns of this particular course kind of have that S shape, and culminating into turn 3, it can be very, very tricky, especially when we're 2 to 3 cars wide. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that off of our starting block. Could be very, very interesting. And then you'll see out of turn 3, cars will accelerate hard to try to put a little bit of separation between themselves and the drivers behind. So get ready to get this thing started. We wait for the lights to turn on, and there we go. That's 3 reds, 4 reds, 5 reds. And ladies and gentlemen, we are away in Singapore. No false starts here as of yet. And we'll have to see how these drivers handle that S-shaped turns 1 through 3. Looks like we're clean so far. I don't see any sort of issues. We're going mostly 2 wide through these first 3 turns, and we are away through that section without any issue. Looks like everyone is clean. We'll catch up with our leaders coming around turns 5 into our long straight. Turn 6. This, of course, will be our first DRS zone once DRS is enabled. For now, we see drivers coming up to turn 8, still relatively clean, going through there into turn 9 now. That hard left coming up momentarily. Seems like everyone, for the most part, is staying healthy. No big issues. A bit of a spin there. That was maybe Josh Smith has spun out just a little bit. Let's see here, and we see, ooh, a lot of contact on the wall there. Who was that? That looked like maybe KJ hitting the wall hard there. Let's see if he's got any damage. Ooh, a bit of a backup. Let's see if we can figure out that. That's Crunchy Trees and Lesty getting mixed in with each other. They're going to have to be very careful turning around, not making contact with each other. That's very bad luck for both Crunchy Trees and, as we see, Trulson also under the wall. Wow. It looks like we're going to have a safety car here, ladies and gentlemen. Virtual or not, I'm not quite sure. We'll have to see. Unfortunately, not come up on my screen one way or the other. But it seems likely that we will have a virtual safety car. It is. So these drivers will get back started here momentarily, as really bad luck for Leslie and Crunchy Trees in the back. They'll have a lot of work to do now, especially under this virtual safety car. They're probably hoping for a safety car to get back into this race. Definitely not what the doctor ordered. Meanwhile, as you can see, Let's Get Fiscal already moves up a couple of slots into P3. Our race leader, Vapor Cobalt, still out in the lead. And that virtual safety car has lifted, so we are back away. Top 3 or 4 drivers are just slightly spread out as we wait for the table to get itself sorted out. Currently having Let's Get Fiscal in the lead, but that is not the case at all. Vapor Cobalt still our leader currently, and it seems like we are getting sorted as we see Crunchy Trees heading into the pit to repair some of that damage, as is Leslie the Twig from the collision earlier. So they're going to go ahead and head into those pits. That won't count as their required pit stop. So they'll have to make another one at some point. Definitely not what they wanted here to start with in Singapore, as we are into lap 3, which means DRS will be enabled on this lap. As we come up to turn 17, a little bit of a box section here, maybe an elongated S to Echo turns 1 through 3. Let's take a look back in the pack where we have our drivers really through the middle of the pack, from about AstraZeneca on down to Worried Cloud, all very, very close through these turns 17 through 21, this longer S-shaped portion of the track. Vapor Cobalt sets fastest time on that lap, so far at least, quickly surpassed by fan favorite Let's Get Fiscal. And we see Naze Ryan heading into the pits. That'll cost him a little bit. I think I saw him lose a bit of his left wing a few turns ago. Let's take a look up with AstraZeneca and TJ, who are neck and neck, as you can see that train behind TIJ men, as AstraZeneca looks to get the better of TIJ. So he can get the move done. Not quite available there, although let's see if he uses the DRS in this very fast portion of the track, and it looks like he will be able to at least take a peek at that outside. Runs a little long there into turn 7. That'll cost him a little bit of time, and for now TIJ will be safe in that 5th position. Meanwhile, Gourlay, after having a very good race last week, unfortunately ending in a bit of tragedy or disaster, depending on how dramatic you would like to be, currently running a very nice race in P4. Lots of separation between these top 5 drivers. After that, it tends to get a little tighter, drivers 6 through 10 or so. But definitely getting a little bit spread out here in lap 3. Let's see if AstraZeneca, now that he's back in the thick of things with TIJ, can get the move done. AstraZeneca, of course, left Bette for about a year or so, but has been back relatively full-time. Still a substitute driver, but seems to be in races more often than not these days. So it's good to see AstraZeneca back amongst the living, so to speak, and here racing week in, week out once again. A lot of fun to watch is AstraZeneca. Both a tragedy and a disaster is what we've decided to go with. Fair enough. A good point well made there from one Raven Fleming. As these drivers start to loosen up just a little bit, we're seeing about a second interval pretty much all up and down Extra Zenica's fallen off the tail of TIJ just a little bit. Meanwhile, it's KJ looking to get a move done on Extra Zenica here in Singapore. And he's going to take a peek at that inside coming around, but he's not gonna do much there for turn 8. He's going to probably wait, I would imagine, until our next DRS coming out of turn 13 through the Esplanade Drive. Maybe somebody can correct me on how to pronounce that at some later date. And it looks like KJ sees a chance on the inside of Zenica there. He's going to get that move done, having to cut the brake quite a bit, but does get the move done on Extra Zenica, so KJ moves up to P2 and he'll get to work on TIJ. See Josh Smith, this looks like it's his turn now to see if he can get a move done on Extra Zenica. We see Matthias here, unfortunately did not finish. He will not finish this race. Looks like he retired in the pits. So unfortunate for Matthias here. We'll see if he fares a little better maybe in the sprint portion of this race. As you see a bit of tire bumping going on there between Josh Smith and Extra Zenica. No damage it seems as these drivers trade blows. So very, very close. It looks like Josh Smith will pull out the move there on Zenica. Zenica then passed as he heads into the pits by Word Cloud, Trulson, and Vachensky. We'll have to see where Zenica comes back out. Just going to go ahead and get that first pit stop done now. Up at the top, we see Let's Get Fiscal trying to chase down Nicholas Volkman. Nicholas Volkman's running a very good race. He's had a bit of trouble kind of staying at the front of the pack in F2. That being said, he has accrued 66 points, so not too bad for Nicholas Volkman. But certainly driving quite well to be up there in P2, as Let's Get Fiscal does his best to chase down that particular man. See Crunchy Trees, one of our newer drivers, currently with the fastest lap, just over 1 minute and 55 seconds. Nice work from Crunchy Trees, especially considering his early race woes. He's going to do his best to get back into this. We see our field very spread out at this point, really not a lot of short intervals. Perhaps Vachensky on the back of Trulson, and then in kind Trulson on Worry Cloud will be our closest interval here. Let's see if Trulson can get this move done in this DRS portion on Worry Cloud. He looks for the outside. Worry Cloud closes that off to him, so no dice there. And Trulson takes a peek at the inside, trying to do the old in and out on that particular turn. That was out of turn 14, but it's just not there for him. So he has to back off more now, bide his time, and it looks like he's going to try to get this move done, I would imagine, maybe into this home straight. Of course, Trulson, known to be very, very aggressive, doesn't mind seeking out a bit of contact. We'll have to see if he keeps it safe, and fortunately Word Cloud looks like he was heading into the pits anyway, so does not have to worry about contact with Trulson, as it seems like we've lost another driver, this time Nays Ryan Stecken left the session. Maybe he'll be able to rejoin. Let's see, Vachensky on the back of Trulson. Vachensky on those Super Softs, 5 laps old. Those Super Softs will go really, really quick on this track, it being 5 kilometers long. As we see Trulson hit the wall. Trulson not one to shy away from contact, but you're never going to win a one-on-one with the wall. As you can see, that left end plate is off of Trulson's car from the wing, and I'm sure Trulson will probably go ahead and pit here shortly to repair that damage and maybe get on a different tire composite. Might want to stretch it out if he can. If he is switching to Super Softs, he's going to want to make that pit stop a little later if possible. We'll have to see how that wing damage affects him moving into these next couple of laps. Let's Get Fiscal, meanwhile, has closed the gap on Nicholas Volkman, less than half a second back. Take a look here to see if Let's Get Fiscal can pull himself into P2 and then start his assault on Vapor Cobalt over in P1. Nicholas Volkman employing a very nice assortment of defensive driving, just trying to keep Let's Get Fiscal in the rear view. Definitely don't want to let this man get ahead of you because he can pull away very, very quickly. And I think we'll see most of our super softs pit here as we come up. Let's see if Gourlay heads into the pits. No, in fact, he's going to stay out one more lap. TJ also going to stay out for another lap on the super softs. And Vicensky is our last super soft driver out on the track. And Let's Get Fiscal still taking a peek in at Nicholas Volkman's. Got to get this move done sooner rather than later. Can't afford to let Victor Cobalt get any further ahead here, or he will have no problem running away with this race. As you see a bit of a close tussle both here, and also further back with Crunchy Trees. Extra Zinica and Worried Cloud seem to all be packed pretty close together, all about a second within each other are those three drivers. Might take a peek back there. Let's see what we have as Crunchy Trees thinks about it on Extra Zinica, and unable, well, he might be able to get the inside here. Let's see. It's not going to have quite the same pace as Zinica, but able to hold on to that inside. And Zinica is into the wall off of Crunchy Trees. Definitely not what Zinica wanted there. Bit of contact. Didn't seem like any fault of either driver, really. Maybe Zinica a bit too aggressive and unfortunately finds that wall. Heading back up to Let's Get Fiscal. About a second back now of Nicholas Volkman. These drivers are actually cutting into Vapor Cobalt's lead. So some very good driving from Nicholas Volkman as Let's Get Fiscal has to be very careful there, almost spinning out. He's got to keep those tires on the track, Fiscal buddy, and continue the assault on Nicholas Volkman. Now about a second back. Checking back with Crunchy Trees after succeeding in passing Extra Zinica, now gets to work on Worried Cloud, about half a second back. These two drivers are unfortunately almost a little over, I should say, half a minute back of the 9 in front. So a lot of work to do still from Crunchy Trees, from Worried Cloud. Might be hoping for a safety car at some point to really tighten this race back up, because right now our front three drivers I should say, are way out front, and then 4 and 5 are super spread out. So certainly could use a safety car, maybe to give a bit of excitement. Of course, I don't want to see anybody unable to finish this race, but our drivers are certainly well and truly spread out at this point, as we see Crunchy Trees now closing the gap under 0.3 of a second behind Worried Cloud, as they opt to pass the pit lane here after their earlier pit stop about 5 laps to go. And it looks like Vicensky makes some sort of error as Worried Cloud able to catch up to Vicensky, and he gets passed by both Worried Cloud and Crunchy Trees, does Vicensky. I'm not sure what the miscue was. Maybe it could have just been a pit. In fact, looking at the differences in times, it looks like Vicensky is just now coming out of the pits. And he's got 0 laps on the soft tires, so very much just a pit stop. And we'll see what Crunchy Trees can do here with Worried Cloud as he opts for the outside. Crunchy Trees not able to get the pass done there. Worried Cloud did a very nice job to get an excellent outside exit off of turn 7, and it seems like he is in good shape moving forward as he spreads that gap out maybe just a little bit, now up to about 0.4. We see the rain starting to come down here in Singapore, overcast as all get out. It doesn't seem like this rain is going to let out for the rest of this race. We'll have to see if it has any effect on the track, as we see Gourlay heading into the pits on those super softs. Got a lot out of them, 8 laps out of them, so excellent, or 7 laps I should say, out of those super softs. So nice work from Gourlay. We'll have to see where he comes out of the pits. And looks like Gourlay is going to opt for the wets, so maybe hoping that the track gets a little bit of moisture on it. It's definitely going to cut into his time a little bit, so we'll have to see what kind of effect that has on his tires. really is going to come down to what kind of moisture this track can suck up and how slippery it could possibly get. As Gourlay comes out of the pits in P7 on those wets. So the wets are going to be much, much slower than the softs and super softs, but if the track is unable to suck up any more moisture, we could definitely see it causing problems for those drivers with the softer composite tires, as they have to be very, very careful. It does seem like the rain is affecting the track just a little bit, as we see these drivers being very, very careful here on turn 16, 17, and 18. As Nicholas Volkmann hits the wall there, definitely some issues keeping the car on the road. Lots of contact between these two drivers here, doing their best not to cause issues for the other, and they'll both slide into the pits. Nicholas Volkmann slightly ahead of Let's Get Fiscal as they get into the pits. Another bit of contact coming into the pits as Let's Get Fiscal runs into the back of Nicholas Volkmann. And let's see. Oh, Josh Smith spins out. You're facing the wrong way there, buddy. Looks like he's going to have to immediately head into the pits. Maybe get those wet tires on. Looks like that was a good move from Gourlay to put those wets on. Definitely kind of predicted this change, as we see KJ heading into the pits, Josh Smith is heading into the pits, Trulson heading into the pits, and I'm sure we'll see TIJ heading into the pits as well to get on those wet tires. Vapor Cobalt way, way out in front. Let's Get Fiscal a slightly faster pit with no damage, I don't think, that had to be fixed, so he was out of the pits a little quicker than Nicholas Volkmann, as he is 13 seconds back now on wet tires to take him through the end of the race. And all of our drivers, with the exception of Ryan Stecken, are on wets, and it seems like they will be for the remainder of this race. Trulson, I'm sure, is putting on the wets as well. Let's see. It seems likely. And we'll get it back on the track here in just a moment. For now, let's take a look at Crunchy Tree, still trying to chase down Worry Cloud. He's been at this for quite a while. And maybe a bit of a bump there. Worry Cloud able to put the distance between himself and Crunchy Trees. It's going to be very, very tight here for sure, as Trulson does indeed switch to those wet tires. These gentlemen are about a minute back of TJ in front. Sorry, 17 seconds. Check that. Not sure where I saw a minute. And Gourlay now looking to get a move done on Trulson. Trulson fresh out of the pits. Lots of intervals, lots of big, heavy intervals here in Singapore. Our drivers are nice and spread out now. So honestly, it's just going to come down to just single driver errors. It doesn't really look like there's going to be too much contact between drivers, but always room with a wet track for mistakes to be made. So we will have to keep an eye on that. Crunchy Trees tries to get the good exit there out of turn 13, but unfortunately still not able to get a lot done on Worry Cloud. And because, of course, of the nature of the rain in this race, DRS has been disabled, which will make it even more difficult to get some of these passes done. We see Worry Cloud running just a little wide out of that corner, and Crunchy Trees, let's see if he can make the most out of it. certainly our closest interval to be sure. Ooh, Crunchy Trees don't want to cut that close. And it looks like Worried Cloud is having some difficulty keeping it on the track and to keep his tires firm there as Crunchy Trees gets by Worried Cloud, and Trulson is now in the picture as well. Have to see what kind of work Trulson can get done on Worried Cloud. And Trulson has no problem there getting in front of Worried Cloud, and he'll get to work on Crunchy Trees here. Trulson currently in third place in our F2 standings with 115 points. Still about 75 points back of Let's Get Fiscal. Probably a little too late, too late to get back into a serious shot at the F2 title, but definitely still points to be had as we see Trulson pulling off a bit of a Tokyo drift there in Singapore. And Crunchy Trees does as well. Definitely loses lots of speed there, and some of these drivers are having a lot of issues with these wet conditions. As Trulson takes a look at the outside, coming into turn 10, just really not much there, as Crunchy Trees still employing a bit of defense. Certainly still our closest interval. Lots of really spread out, as you can see, between first and second, a 15-second interval, second and third, almost an 8-second interval, third and fourth, almost a 25-second interval, and those double-digit intervals just carry on all the way through P7. You can see Trulson having a really tough time picking up a penalty there. Keeping himself from overcorrecting on some of these turns with these wet conditions. You almost just saw it again right there, coming out of turn 20. It can be very, very tricky. With 5 laps to go, not a lot of very tight racing here in Singapore. Still quite the intervals. In fact, let's take a moment to look at how far off the leader some of these drivers are. You can see between 5th and 1st we have over a minute interval, and then another minute interval between 4th and 13th. So not exactly what one might call ideal conditions here. For those of you that were hoping for some close racing. And Let's Get Fiscal seems like he won't have any trouble with a very nice P2 finish, but it doesn't look very likely that he's got much of a chance on Vapor Cobalt, barring some sort of huge mistake from Vapor Cobalt or tire issues or something of that nature. Let's Get Fiscal can't give up, because even one small miscue from Vapor Cobalt, despite the almost 20-second interval now, could very much get Let's Get Fiscal back in this race. In this race, insofar as having a shot at taking the trophy. Definitely feels like Vapor Cobalt is right at home, racing in this rainy downpour. As we see Extra Zenica picking up a time penalty. Not sure that should have too much of an effect on his race. Zenica out there in 13th position currently. As Vapor Cobalt continues to mine this P's and Q's, just building on that interval. Now over 20 seconds between himself and Let's Get Fiscal. Take a look now at, let's take a look at Trulson. Still a little over a second back of Crunchy Trees to see if there's any miscues here. I will say if Trilson manages to hold on to this position, he will start the sprint race in pole position. So he's just got to make sure he keeps at least a 3-second lead on Worried Cloud, given that Trilson has accrued 1 penalty, and Worried Cloud is still without penalties here in Singapore. Volkman is cutting into the lead of Let's Get Fiscal out in second place just a little bit by bit. Maybe taking some chances in these wet conditions, but at this point, I guess Nicholas Volkman feels like he doesn't have much to lose as he continues to cut into that deficit between himself and Let's Get Fiscal. Now down around 5 seconds, previously as high as about 7.5 seconds. I gotta say, big kudos to Crunchy Trees. Big kudos to Crunchy Trees. Was in a collision with Leslie the Twig, but has managed to work himself all the way back up to 7th position. Was momentarily at the back of the pack, but did very, very well to get himself second life and into the top 8. So not only will he get points, but he'll also start the sprint section with a very nice position indeed. Chensky picks up a 3-second time penalty. Of course, most of these drivers spread out enough that those 3-second time penalties probably won't come into play too terribly much, but certainly we'll keep an eye on it. Gourlay fly by Vachensky. Maybe a bit of a miscue from Vachensky at some point, because I believe that interval was a few seconds. Leslie Twig also in, and it looks like he'll be able to slip by Vachensky as we see Vachensky spin out once again on these wet tires. Maybe not feeling quite so comfortable on a wet track with this particular tire composite. Leslie the Twig having some issues too. Definitely the wet conditions of this particular track proving to be quite tricky for some of these drivers. The radar calls for more of the same for the sprint section. So hopefully these drivers will have a little bit better understanding of the wet track come the sprint section of the race. To our final 3 laps. AstraZeneca into the pits. You can even see Let's Get Fiscal struggling in these wet conditions. Definitely proving challenging for all of our drivers, top to bottom. With an absolutely commanding lead over 20 seconds, and so long as he doesn't make any huge mistakes here, it seems like he can basically get out and walk and still finish at the top of this particular table. As you can see, we'd like to thank our sponsors, DHL. Any shipping needs you might find that you have, DHL is a great way to get your package wherever it needs to go. Also, big shout out to Singapore Airlines. Singapore Airlines flying you to your destination without crashing into any major oceans for the last 25 years. Singapore Airlines, we fly where you fly. And Aramco. Aramco is, has always been a really solid sponsor of this particular course, and we really love all of our sponsors here in the Bette Jalle League Racing. So as we are in putting the finishing touches on our penultimate lap here in Singapore, Vapor Cobalt still pretty much making this thing a runaway. I have to say, major kudos to our drivers. We should have 14 guys, coming into the finish line, finishing this race. As you see, Vapor Cobalt driving through our Emirates Airlines portion of our track. Some of the fanciest flights I've ever been on, Emirates. Certainly know the business of the flying game, especially if you plan on flying to the Middle East. Really no better airline to partner with than Emirates Air. Into our final lap now of our feature section. Once again, big shout out to all of our sponsors here in Singapore. It seems like this race has pretty much been a foregone conclusion. As we see AstraZeneca DNF, he will not finish this race. So maybe spoke too soon with 14 drivers crossing the finish line. It looks like we may only have 13. Still a little bit over half a lap to go. Vapor Cobalt looks like he'll cruise into first. Let's see, who was that in the wall that he just passed? Let's see if we can figure out who was that in the wall. No idea. Might have been AstraZeneca, actually. Might have been where AstraZeneca decided that he was all done and kaput in this particular race. Here we do have a bit of a battle. TIJ men right on the back of KJ. This is certainly is something. About a half second between them in this final lap. Let's see if KJ can hold on to P5. As we see Vapor Cobalt will momentarily cross the finish line on his way to Trophy Island. Meanwhile, KJ takes that just a little bit wide, and TIJ is looking to take advantage, and indeed will, as he will move ahead of KJ for now. Looks like Trulson moves ahead of Crunchy Trees momentarily, of course, with penalties. I think Crunchy Trees will probably still finish around 7th, but that will certainly cement Trulson's pole position into the sprint race. Vapor Cobalt is across the finish line. Congratulations to Vapor Cobalt, finishing about a third of a minute ahead of Let's Get Fiscal, who we will see cross our finish line in second. Nicholas Volkman, about 7 seconds behind Let's Get Fiscal, will cross in third. Josh Smithness has about 27 seconds to play with here, as he'll look to cross in fourth. TIJ, without a penalty, should have no problem finishing in 5th. And KJ Trulson and Crunchy Trees will finish in some order for positions 6 through 8. As you see our position changes, Josh Smith is moving up 8 positions to secure that 4th place finish. Trulson also starting in the back of the pack, moving up 8 positions to finish probably in 8th place after penalties are applied. So excellent work to both of those drivers. Let's Get Fiscal also making up a few positions into 3rd. Crunchy Trees right at the end there picking up a 5-second penalty. That could allow Gourlay to maybe slip into the top 8, bumping Trulson out. Could be interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And Crunchy Trees picking up another penalty, so almost certainly we'll see him out of our top 8 now. As Crunchy Trees and Trulson both out of fuel. Gourlay able to slip himself into 8th position. Nice work for Gourlay, taking advantage of Crunchy Trees running out of fuel. Crunchy Trees falls all the way to 10th. That is really bad luck. Crunchy Trees ran a really good race. Unfortunately, fuel management came into play there at the end. As we see our winner, Vapor Cobalt, take a quick selfie, pointing to his wife in the crowd, thanking her for all that she's done to get him to this position where he can take home the trophy in Singapore for this F2 Bette Jalle race. Meanwhile, Let's Get Fiscal really getting into the champagne as he's wont to do after a race well run. I think Josh Smithness has to pick up my driver of the day for the feature portion. Did very, very nice work. Started in 12th, managed to finish in 4th. I would say that's deserving of a driver of the day nod. Of course, Trulson also did quite well, beginning at the back of the grid, moving up to P7. So we have Gourlay on pole here in the sprint section. Let's see what Gourlay can get done. Crunchy Trees does turn in fastest lap time, so he does salvage a point for that. A couple points, I should say. So nice work from Crunchy Trees. Despite his fuel issues, he will begin the sprint race in 10th place. We will start the sprint section with a bit of rain on the track, so probably going to see our drivers on those wets. According to my man on the weather radar, we might see this rain start to clear towards the last third or so of this race. So it'll be interesting to see if we get folks starting on wets and then maybe moving off of them, and who might just maybe take a chance and stay on the wets all through the race. So we get our formation lap underway. We'll be doing 12 laps here in Singapore. And Gourlay will be starting this race at the pole. Trulson will be starting in P2, KJ P3, TIJ Men will start in P4, Josh Smith is P5, Nicholas Volkman P6, Let's Get Fiscal down in P7, and our feature race winner, Vapor Cobalt, will begin this race in P8. Into the wall. That is Worry Cloud. not exactly what he had in mind for the formation lap. I'm sure he'll do his best to catch up and get back in line in P9 here in the formation lap. See, all 15 of our drivers will start the race on the wet tires, I should say. It'll be interesting to see if they try to run all 12 laps on wets, or if they maybe opt, once the track conditions dry out, to switch to a softer composite. See a couple of drivers disqualified from their formation lap. We see our drivers take their positions in the grid here as we get set to get underway for the sprint section of our race. And our final driver is locked and loaded and ready to go. So hang on to your butts, people, as we get the sprint section underway. The lights come on. The lights go out, and we are underway here. Let's see what kind of carnage we undertake here through the first portion of this race. Bit of contact. Looks like everyone managing to stay somewhat healthy. TJ taking that a little wide, but yes, indeed, TJ. That's Crunchy Trees again. Having some trouble with the beginning portions of these races. Let's get Fiscal dropping down to P8. Vicence, let's see, that's Leslie the Twig. Yeah, Leslie the Twig in the wall there. So a bit of a yellow flag as Crunchy Trees will take back P14 for now. Vapor Cobalt and Josh Smith is side by side. Vapor Cobalt's already moved up 4 positions to P4. Nice work from him. Ooh, lots of contact there as Gourlay looks like he's met the wall, and as usual, the wall won. So Vapor Cobalt, just like that, out in the lead. And we sit and wait as Vapor Cobalt looks like he's trying to repeat his performance of the feature race. And Leslie the Twig picking up 10 seconds there for corner cutting. Can't be doing that, Leslie the Twig, especially in the back of the pack. Not enough time in a sprint section to really get much going there, as Let's Get Fiscal has made his move. He moves up a few positions. Wow. Nice work from him. Get a yellow flag, that's Leslie the Twig. I have a feeling we might see Leslie the Twig leaving the session sooner rather than later. He's at an absolute mare of a first portion of this race. Let's Get Fiscal, meanwhile, passing Gourlay, no problem, as he has moved up now P4, despite what the table tells you, he is still at P4. As you see him and Gourlay battling it out side by side. KJ picking up a speeding in the pit lanes 5-second penalty. And KJ is actually our first driver to retire. Lots of contact there. Oh my goodness. Geez, that's Let's Get Fiscal, who instigates a severe collision. And as you can see, that really slows down our pack. Definitely not what the doctor ordered. And we will have a virtual safety car here as we get things sorted out. First couple of laps proving very interesting to be sure. Vapor Cobalt still out in the lead. Nicholas Volkman in second, Trulson in third, Ryan Stecken doing a nice job in fourth. And then after that, it starts to get pretty close here. Wow. Let's Get Fiscal did not like that. He picks up the penalty for the severe collision. Definitely not what his biggest fan, Raven Fleming, wanted to see here in the sprint section of the race. And it looks like this virtual safety car will lift here, and there it goes. And we are back away as Nicholas Volkman about a second back of Vapor Cobalt. Still very close here in the middle part of this pack. And Let's Get Fiscal once again into the wall. Wow. Don't see that a lot from our current F2 leader, as he's having all sorts of problems here in the rain. All the way back now in 13th position. Definitely not something we're accustomed to seeing from Let's Get Fiscal. Lots of good battles early on here. Crunchy Trees and Gourlay going at it, touching tires. Gourlay able to come out of that relatively unscathed, as he'll do his best to chase down Crunchy Trees. So you see TIJ heading into the pits, probably fixing a bit of damage there, and he'll get onto a different tire as well. Crunchy Trees and Gourlay battling it out. Back here for P7. Strain maybe coming down a little harder than these racers anticipated. Definitely having trouble keeping it strong and keeping it steady. Heading up to Matty, only about a little less than half a second behind Ryan Stecken. As once again our first three racers able to separate themselves quite a bit from the rest of the pack. And quite a bit of intrigue here, as it seems like both Gourlay and Crunchy Trees still going at it. See if Crunchy Trees can get the move done on Gourlay, who's fighting the defensive battle of his life right now, as he just is doing everything under his power to keep Crunchy Trees out of that 7th position. Unfortunately, undercorrected just a little bit, and Crunchy Trees able to capitalize on Gourlay coming out of, I believe that was turn 19. Sorry, turn 21, I should say. Nicholas Volkman looking to challenge Vapor Cobalt about a second back. Not really quite sure that Volkman's got the pace but doing his best to hang tight with Vapor Cobalt here in these absolutely dreadful cold rain that's coming down here in Singapore. Crunchy Trees will, at this point, look to get a move done on Worry Cloud. And it seems like, once again, Fiscal having issues as he once again found the wall. AstraZeneca now looking to get by Gourlay, and does. Crunchy Trees, meanwhile, moves past Worry Cloud and gets to work on Matty. Matty, in turn, still trying to chase down Ryan Stecken for that P4. AstraZeneca and Worry Cloud, meanwhile, also battling it out for P7, going back and forth. Trulson sets our current fastest lap at about 2 minutes and 10 seconds. That would almost certainly be broken once this rain lets up and our drivers can get on those softs and super softs, assuming the rain lets up enough and the track dries out enough to allow for a tire switch. Go back to Matty, still chasing down Ryan Stecken. These drivers losing lots of time on those top three in front of them. AstraZeneca, meanwhile, picking up a 3-second penalty, call that I'm sure you know and have heard now quite a few times. Matty being very, very cautious, not really pressing the issue with Ryan Stecken, allowing Crunchy Trees to make an appearance. Crunchy Trees will look to get an overtake or two done here in the next few moments. So we have yet another yellow flag. Might have been Worry Cloud as you see him sliding all the way back to 12th now. And Crunchy Trees, let's see if he can get this overtake done on Matty and Ryan Stecken. Not quite the exit that he wanted out of turn 13. Drivers very, very close. Come down as Gourlay also moves back past AstraZeneca and now takes off. See what kind of separation he can get on Zeneca here. Crunchy Trees taking a little bit of a look at the outside of Matty, but it's not quite there yet. And now he loses a wing into the back of Matty. That's definitely not what Crunchy Trees wanted, as we can see that right wing is no longer on the vehicle. The end plate, it looks like, is the bit that he's lost. See if he can at least stretch this out until maybe the rain lets up so he can replace that damage and also maybe put on a different tire composite. More contact there between Matty and Crunchy Trees. Crunchy Trees unable to get a pass done for now. Meanwhile, up at the top, Nicholas Volkman still about 2.5 seconds back of Vapor Cobalt. And then Schulzen about 3 seconds back of Nicholas Volkman. If Crunchy Trees opts to head into the pits here to fix the damage, or if he decides to stay out, since this rain has still not begun to let up. It looks like, according to the radar, it might clear up in the next lap or two. Not sure if that will allow the track to get any drier. This Crunchy Tree opts to stay on out of this particular track. And another yellow flag. It looks like that was Vichensky this time into the wall. And Let's Get Fiscal moves from 14th up to 13th. So not all lost for Let's Get Fiscal. Dusty the Twig, meanwhile, picking up a 3-second time penalty. It looks like Nicholas Volkman did head into the pits, allowing now Trulson to move into second place. And Vapor Cobalt once again kind of running away with this race, clearly very comfortable in the rain. Meanwhile, Josh Smith is setting a fastest lap for now. To see if this is where Crunchy Trees can get a move done. Looks at the inside and maybe, depending on the exit, might be able to get by Matty. Unfortunately, not the exit he needed. Had to slow down too much on the inside of that corner. And he'll try one more time. And maybe finding success indeed. Crunchy Trees moving by Matty, now chasing down Ryan Stecken, I should say. Coming up on our 8th lap here, so about 5 laps remaining. I can see Nicholas Volkman doing his best to get by Matty. Definitely a bit of a train now. 4 cars all kind of stacked up on each other. Nicholas Volkman unable to pass by Matty, finding himself having the same trouble perhaps that we saw Crunchy Trees having. That being said, it looks like Nicholas Volkman almost got the move on there on Matty. Matty able to take the position back. Lots of contact there as Matty didn't leave Nicholas Volkman a lot of room, really had nowhere to go. And unfortunately, it knocks into the back of Matty's vehicle. looks like Maddie's been run off by Nicholas Volkman there. Maddie able to get back on the track out in 7th. That has got to be frustrating for Maddie as he's passed by Gourlay and of course Nicholas Volkman. Crunchy Trees picking up a 3-second time penalty. Heading into lap 9 now as Irvin just passing the start-finish line. Now about 5 seconds ahead of Trulson. It looks like Vapor Cobalt might be able to go back-to-back here. Wins in the feature and in the sprint race. See if Let's Get Fiscal can get a move done on Worried Cloud. Let's Get Fiscal finding himself at the back of the pack after a couple important meetings with the wall. As you see, Josh Smith is also running right on time for his meeting with the wall. He'll have to come out in 13th position. And Let's Get Fiscal looking to see if he can maybe crack the top 10 here in Singapore as he moves by Worried Cloud, no problem. He'll see now if he can chase down Leslie the Twig. We see Crunchy and Ryan Stecken, a lot of contact there. Ryan Stecken able to get the better of Crunchy Trees for now. But Crunchy Trees comes out on top in the end. It seems like this rain is certainly letting up a little bit, but it does look like we will have wet conditions through the end of this race. So unfortunately I will have to fire my weather guy. Who assured me that we may have skies clearing up for the last few laps of this race. It does seem like that's going to happen, and we will see wets all the way through this particular race. So Nicholas Volkman also able to get by Ryan Stecken, this time without sending his passee into the wall. And now it is Gourlay's turn to see if he can slip by Ryan Stecken. We're into our final 3 laps here. And Leslie the Twig, unfortunately unable to finish this race. Looks like Leslie the Twig retired in pit lane. So he is out of this race as well. That's 2 racers down, Leslie the Twig and KJ. Gourlay's got to be careful not to nick the wall there, very close. Nice work from Gourlay to avoid contact with the wall. Now we see Let's Get Fiscal unable to avoid contact with the wall, as he once again puts it into the wall, and you can see he's having a lot of trouble keeping it on the track. These wet conditions not letting up. And we'll keep it right here with Let's Get Fiscal, because he is having all sorts of trouble. And he finds the wall once again. Oh dear. Let's Get Fiscal having an absolute mare of a race. You don't see him do this a lot in F2. But unfortunately we are seeing it here. And it looks like he just not really having good control over his car. Really bad luck from Let's Get Fiscal. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with him. Just really unable to turn at all. Perhaps these tires are maybe just a bit more worn through than they probably should be. Not really letting much off the gas, so I guess he's just kind of trusting the vehicle he's in to get it done. As you see him once again make some contact with the wall. He's been doing that almost out of every turn. Really drifting around his corners. We're just going to keep it right here because I have a feeling we're going to see Let's Get Fiscal head into the wall. Yep, there it is. One more time. And it looks like at this point, it would surprise me if even Josh Lipness manages to work his way past Let's Get Fiscal as we're into our 11th lap. And Fiscal will head into the pits, hopefully. Maybe not. He can't find his way in there. Having all sorts of issues. Let's see if he cuts across into pit lane. Indeed he will. Ooh, definitely hate to see it there from Let's Get Fiscal. Just a little bit of poor racing there from Let's Get Fiscal, which we so rarely see. So I had to stick around to see what he decided to do there. Into our final lap now, as we see Gourlay also doing his best to keep it on the track, maybe thinking about getting a pass done on Ryan Stecken. It doesn't seem like it's going to come to be, unfortunately. As we put the finishing touches on in the sprint section of Singapore, it has certainly been a race to remember for Vapor Cobalt, a race to forget for maybe AstraZeneca, Let's Get Fiscal, Lesty, and KJ. Definitely might have some poor dreams about this race tonight, as Singapore giving them absolute fits. Meanwhile, checking in with Vapor Cobalt, he does have a puncture, and it looks like Trulson will have a chance to catch up to him. There definitely is time. Let's see. Yeah, Trulson theoretically could get a pass done here. It's going to be very, very interesting. Let's see what Trulson can do. And it seems like he's, that is, Vapor Cobalt will make it across the finish with a puncture, and he'll take the checkered flag. Trulson finishing in second. Nicholas Volkman doing his best to get across in third. Crunchy Trees breathing down his neck. Nicholas Volkman, of course, no penalties, which will help his case to finish in third, even if he's passed by some of these drivers behind. And it seems like luckily Vapor Cobalt built up enough of a lead that he will indeed be able to finish in first. Meanwhile, Nicholas Wolfman finishes third. Maddie moves up because of some penalties, finishing fourth. Crunchy Trees comes across the line fifth. Ryan Stecken will take sixth. Gorley will take seventh. And waiting on TJ to come across the line in eighth. Cloud will finish in ninth. And Vachensky 10th. AstraZeneca will eventually come across the line in 11th. You know, I think I got to give my driver of the day to Vapor Cobalt today. I mean, he really put the foot down, so to speak. He didn't show any weakness, and even with a tire puncture at the end of the sprint race, still managing to go back-to-back first place in the feature, first place in the sprint. So nice work from Vapor Cobalt in this one. Definitely my driver of the day. You know, I kind of have to slander Let's Get Physical because he definitely had a last couple of laps that I'm sure he would like to forget and never talk about. Of course, we will do just that and talk about it. I look forward to bit of a debrief with Let's Get Physical to figure out what in the world was going through his head and why he seemed to have such an infatuation with all of our various sponsors, going up close and personal over and over again to make himself better acquainted to them. It's been my absolute pleasure to bring you this F2 race in Bette, Jalle. We've been in Singapore today as the F2 season comes pretty much to a close. Just a few more races to be had. It seems like even with his absolute nightmare of a race, Let's Get Physical will have no problem taking home the League Cup. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. Vapor Cobalt getting the win. Trulson finishing in second here in Singapore. Both of those drivers had very nice both feature and sprint races. And Team Red Bull looking like they're doing just fine. So once again, we had Vapor Cobalt finishing first, Trulson in second, Nicholas Volkman took home third. All three of those drivers really ran pretty excellently between both the feature and the sprint. In fourth, we had Maddie, fifth, Crunchy Trees, sixth, Ryan Stecken, seventh, Gorley, eighth, TJ Men, ninth, Warwick Cloud, and rounding out our top 10, Vachensky finished 10th in that sprint section. This has been your man on the mic, Ben Silver, bringing you all of the ins and outs of F2 Bette, Jalle. Looking forward to our race next weekend. I'll be here to bring it to you live. But until then, this is Zerio saying, see ya.